Hello, my name is Alessandra Smith, and welcome back to Wine Reform. So today, we are trying a very exciting wine, not only because the graphics are so aesthetically pleasing, but because it seems genuinely badass. Dark Horse Pinot Noir. So Pinot Noir is pretty cool. Pinot Noir literally translates to pine black, and the reason that is because the grapes themselves are so tightly clustered that it resembles a pine cone. Pinot Noir is a light-bodied red, and it tends to grow in cooler climates, similarly to any sort of pink grape or white grape. It is originated in Burgundy, and it has spread to Germany, California, Oregon, Canada, South Africa, Chile, Australia, New Zealand, Italy, Switzerland, and I don't have another finger, but Moldova. It is fragranced by sort of red fruits, spices like anise or clove, and it has some florals and some earthiness, or umami, which tends to come through. Most people register that flavor as mushroom. It can be planted in the same sort of climates as Chardonnay, which we know is a white grape, so keep that in mind. It ages really well. It's one of those wines that can keep for 10 years or longer. Similarly to Chardonnay, Pinot Noir is used as a blending grape in champagne and other sparkling wines. So Dark Horse Winery is a California winery owned by Beth Liston, and my god, she's so badass. She's like this artist, winemaking chemist, and it's just fantastic. This Pinot Noir in particular, it is, well, it's actually a blend. The grapes are all harvested in Modesto, California, and that's in the Central Valley or the San Joaquin Valley, for those of you who are more familiar with California topography. This Pinot Noir was back blended with Grenache, grapes, and Gewürztraminer. So Grenache is a red grape that's grown in warmer climates. It tends to develop very high sugar levels rather than acid, so it's very sweet. And it's grown in France, Spain, Italy, North Africa, Australia, California. And it also has red fruit and spice flavors to it, although it comes through as more sweet and cinnamony. Now, Gewürztraminer is a pink grape, and it's got very tropical fruity flavors, almost like pineapple and lychee, and it's got some florals, a bit like roses, and it's a grape from cool climates. It's got low acidity, and the reason it's grown in the cool climates is to control that sugar so it doesn't get too sweet. Gewürztraminer is grown in Germany, all through the Alps, such as Italy, Hungary, Romania, Croatia, France, Slovenia, and Switzerland. And it's also grown in New Zealand, Canada, California, New York State, and Washington State. I mentioned that this wine was, it's a Pinot Noir back-blended with the Grenache and the Gewürztraminer. Now, back-blending is how winemakers get a little bit of an edge in their wines. It's a way to create an interesting blend. Now, it doesn't take away from the grape that they're trying to have most prominent, so in this case, the Pinot Noir is the forefront flavor. However, the Grenache and the Gewürztraminer are probably added in to sweeten or soften out those wines. Back blending is done when it's done with finished wines, and you just mix it almost like you're literally creating your own blend. It sounds simple, but it's difficult, and it's quite interesting. Even more interesting about this wine is that this went through a fast sourlier aging. Sourlier aging is when wine that is finished sits with the lees for a little longer, for a little bit more of maybe a cheesy or earthy sort of flavor. Lees are the it's like the yeast byproduct. It's what was left over from the grapes and the yeast when the yeast was eating all the sugars, and it looks like this congealed gunk. So it looks gross, but it does awesome things for your wine if you do it right. It has to be stirred so that it doesn't spoil, and you really have to pay attention, because if it starts to smell moldy or musty or just off, that's it. rack it, you're done. And interestingly, it usually takes a year to 2 years for this process, and it does help wine keep for a lot longer. When it goes through this process of sommelier, it helps prevent the wine from being more susceptible to oxidation. And oxidation can ruin wines and it can ruin beers, so if you're into that too, you probably have heard of it. With this one, Dark Horse has managed to expedite that process. Now, I don't know how long their aging has taken, but they have figured out how to speed it up. The third thing that they do to make this wine a little bit more, to give this wine their own personal touch, is it goes through a hot fermentation. A hot fermentation usually happens at about 75 to 89 degrees Fahrenheit. If you go past that, then you tend to lose a lot of the fruity aromas, and it's just kind of, the flavor's flat at that point. But hot fermentation can help soften any acidity and tannin in the wine. Oh wow, that was a lot of information about Pinot Noir in general and Dark Horse's 2018 Pinot Noir from Modesto. I'm really excited. So for this particular wine, I am expecting that I'm gonna get a lot of that red fruit. It's gonna have, like, I feel like it's probably gonna take on almost like some sort of baked berry tart kind of flavor, where it's a bit maybe not quite jammy, but it's a bit sweeter, a bit spiced, and I'm probably expecting a little bit of that sort of nice light floral fragrance to peek in there. Whew. Why don't we get started? Why don't I tell you how much I spent on this wine? Once again, I went to my local liquor outlet and I bought this wine for $7.99 before tax. Around this price range, the more you spend, the better the quality of your wine gets. At a certain point, price doesn't dictate quality, but right now we're still in that threshold. If you haven't seen my first wine tasting video where I tasted a Cabernet Sauvignon, I showed how to open a bottle in that first one, so I'm just going to skip through this real quick and we'll get right to it. I love that sound. So when we're tasting wine, we don't need much. Ooh, did you see that color? Now that we have it poured, I'm going to pull out my white piece of paper and I'm going to show you guys the color and the clarity. It is a light-bodied red, and you can already see that because you can really see through that color. You can really see through the red wine. Translucent, like perfect, true red. If I wanted to give it a sort of a better descriptor, I would say if you imagine what you would, if you were drawing some cherries, this is the red I would pick to draw those cherries. The tannins I don't think are going to be very high on this one. We'll bring it closer so you can see. And it's got phenomenal clarity. I don't see any particulates floating in the glass at all. It looks great. We have the color established. We've got a true red, bit translucent, light-bodied, good clarity. So now we talked about what to expect in Pinot Noir and what to expect in Grenache and Gewürztraminer. And because those wines are in here, but it is Pinot Noir forward, let's see what we get. There it is. Okay, yeah, so we've got a raspberry tart, anise, a bit of tobacco, and hibiscus. I've got the fruity, I've got the spicy, and I've got that really interesting floral. So this wine is got pretty strong alcohol. Whew, yes it does. It is 13.5% alcohol by volume. All right, so that explains why I could smell the alcohol right away. Strong alcohol, a raspberry tart, a bit of anise and tobacco, and hibiscus. So now we're going to try it, so let's taste it. The first two flavors I really got were the hibiscus flavor. If you've ever had any sort of hibiscus tea, I definitely get that. It's very light. It's a very nice light floral, not floral but not aromatic sort of flavor. And then I was getting tart cherry It didn't taste very sweet. Let me take another sip. That's fascinating. Okay, so while I did get the tart cherry and the hibiscus, I was getting almost a bit of a green flavor. It tasted a little bit like if you were to pick a piece of grass like from the ground and you nibbled the end of it that had been touching the dirt, because it had both a green and an earthy sort of balance to it in that one flavor. All right, so tart cherry, hibiscus, and the ends of the grass. It had a really nice feeling. I felt the flavor of it all over my tongue. The acidity was not very strong, which was nice, and I imagine, again, hot fermentation and expedited Chtulthu aging, it's gonna soften the acidity in that wine. And while it didn't raise the sweetness of it. So this is a dry wine. Again, acidity not strong. I did not feel myself salivating like crazy. I did not feel a zing on the sides of my tongue. Tannins are very light. If tannins tend to feel a bit like a bit astringent or a bit sandpapery, and I really don't feel that sensation lingering on my tongue. So it's quite interesting. It's, again, it's almost like it really does taste like someone just mixed this stereotypical red with like the poster child for white, and you got this perfect balance between the two. Let me tell you about the finish. This wine, it had a strong flavor of alcohol. I could feel that filling up my mouth. It had a very, very low acid, low tannins, light-bodied. It tasted like dark cherry, hibiscus, and the very ends, like the root of grass. The finish was actually pretty long. I could really feel it in my mouth for about 10 seconds after I took a sip. So a decently, I wouldn't say it's not the longest finish. It's like medium long finish. Just to recap, you have a true red, translucent, great clarity, light-bodied wine. We had those raspberry tart, tobacco anise, and shoot, what was the other one I said? Tobacco anise. Oh, hibiscus. The nose was a strong nose. It smelled like cherry tart or raspberry tart, tobacco anise, and a bit of that floral hibiscus. The flavor itself was a tart cherry and hibiscus and grassroots, and the finish was medium long, low tannin, high alcohol. It was a dry wine. It's good. I have yet to find a wine I genuinely really don't like. I do know I gravitate more towards dry wines, but this is tasty. I feel like this is a steal, honestly. I would pair this wine with a leather jacket and dark chocolate covered pretzel. I would sip this wine in a leather jacket and feel totally badass. I feel like this wine is encouraging me to do the things that I have been putting off. Crack open a bottle of Dark Horse Pinot Noir and conquer your life. I am all about affordable wine and wine being fun. I am really excited because I will be working on a series in which we home make some wine. Last week's episode, I did say aluminum. I kept saying aluminum. Wine is not fermented in aluminum tanks. A wine expert friend helped point that out to me, and I was like, oh my god, you're right. Yes, wine is fermented in stainless steel tanks when it's not done in glass carboys or oak barrels. So thank you for that, and I wanted to share that. So thank you again for joining me on this wine journey, my fellow wine enthusiasts, wine dabblers, and wine lovers. I would still do this, but it means so much more when you guys join me and actually, you know, take the time to be interested too. It means a lot. So thank you. And again, keep those questions coming because I cannot wait to do a whole mini series on answering your wine questions. Like I said, I'm learning. I want to learn with you, and it'll be fun. Yeah, thank you. Thank you again for joining me on this episode of Wine Reform, and I really look forward to putting out more stuff for you guys in the future. It's just gonna get bigger and better, and thank you. So good. That's so good. It's so good. That's it. That's all we need. That's all we need.